We're fresh off the 4th of July, and as always, Donald Trump took to Truth Social to incredibly briefly acknowledge the holiday before using the acknowledgement of the holiday as a means to attack people that he disagrees with. So he tweeted this: "Happy 4th of July to all, including to our highly incapable president who uses prosecutors to go after his political opponent who choked like a dog during the Capitol D debate, but tried to pretend it was international travel, only 12 days rest. And when that gig was up, he blamed it on a cold. Therefore, why would anyone say he's cognitively challenged?" So brief, very brief acknowledgement of the 4th of July, which would seem to be like, if you're part of a fascistic sort of aspirational proto-dictatorship political movement, like you should probably like pretend a bit more to give a damn about the 4th of July. I mean, isn't that kind of your thing? It's the big patriotism one. And we're gonna turn to patriotism in just a sec, but there he's hitting Biden on a couple of the different explanations that have been provided for why the debate didn't go well. Some of it is honest, some of it's not. They talked about it being a cold beforehand. It's not like they just came up with that days later. The international travel thing, I think, is a perfectly legitimate thing to hit Biden on. The idea that he had done international travel like more than a week before the debate, that no longer seems like a relevant factor. But again, there's like some good points mixed in with him just continuing to be such a weirdo.
The video will continue in just a moment, but first I have a message for you. TYT needs your help. Membership is vital to survival, so please go to tyt.com/team and become a member today.
It's the jig is up. The idiom is the jig is up. And the origin of that idiom is at the end of Shakespeare plays, and those from that era, they would dance a jig at the end of the show.
I did not know that.
Not the gig is up, you dum-dum. But everything else John said, I agree with. I mean, not that you disagreed with that, but yeah. I don't like that he said
he was
the
talking about an actual like an event. I didn't think that was the expression you referenced. I thought that was like, the debate is the gig.
No, your act is over. That's what it is.
The act is over. Anyway, I like that you defined that. When I eventually have my podcast that gets into the origin of idioms, that's one that we're gonna do. But anyway, look, he doesn't seem to be feeling all that patriotic. It's a brand for him, not an actual feeling. But while that's not weird for him, he takes Mother's Day and turns it into a weird personal thing. A lot of people apparently aren't feeling the spirit of the 4th this year, and I can't really blame them considering all of what's been going on. A poll shows that the share of people who say that they are extremely proud to be an American is up very slightly from 2023 and 2024. It's largely within like the margin of error, but still at like kind of a decade low. I mean, it wasn't that high prior to the Trump time, but it has dropped a significant chunk since then. And it's down for pretty much everyone, by the way. Republicans are higher on that metric at 59%, compared to just 34% for Democrats and 36% for independents. So in that, independents look more like Democrats than Republicans. But even Republicans are significantly down. And everyone's pretty much down from like, 2001 when it was like above 70%. And so I don't know if this is something we should care about. I personally find pride in your country as sort of like an abstract, unchanging thing to be sort of weird. But what do you make of it?
Yeah, I think everybody should be proud to be an American. The same way I'm like, but it ends up turning into more like sports fandom. Like I'm a Dodger fan, and when they're doing well, I'm more of a Dodger fan. But even when they're not doing well, though it's been like decades, I am upset. I turn into more of that like Knicks fan type person where it's like, why can't we win one? But I still love it. And if anyone else talks trash on it, I call them a jerk face. But I still am allowed to be. I think people need to understand you can be proud of your country, proud of your identity, and also aware of its shortcomings. And just listen to more sports radio if you're looking for inspiration on how to do that.
Yeah, I think you should be proud of your country when it does things well, when it is taking care of people that need help, when it is providing a good example internationally, when it passes big bills, those sorts of things. You can be proud of your country, for instance, for, rejecting Donald Trump in 2020. I think that is a reason to be proud of your country. The fact that it was so close is a reason to not be all that proud. But just like, I don't know, when I see the huge majority of Republicans, I just don't think it means what we're supposed to think it means. I think it means some stuff that's good and a lot of stuff that's kind of dark, okay? And my version of what I think pride should be, which is a thing that you can have, and I think it should be reassessed every once in a while, is more purely about like, are we living up to a standard that should count for something? Not just, am I automatically better than the vast majority of the people on earth? And I feel like for some people, I'm not saying that's a conscious thing, but I feel like it's definitely floating around out there.
Right, no country has ever lived up to its purest promises, ever. Either they make these huge promises about everyone being able to be successful and that's impossible, or something else. But for America, I think another factor in this is particularly Republicans are trying to warp the definition of America's promises. That's the problem. That's what's creepy and that's what's gross. But I think you can be proud of a country that strives to provide a voice for everyone, a place for everyone, a system that's fair enough for them to be able to succeed in it, as long as they play by the rules. Now we fail in those ways. We fail sometimes, and we fail a lot. In guaranteeing that to a lot of people, but striving to do that in earnest is something to be looked up to. And it's hard to stay positive when the former president who's trying to be president again is basically saying, I'm a dictator this time.
Yeah, and that so many people, again, whether I have pride for America is not largely going to be based on just what Donald Trump does, but how a significant chunk of our population responds to it. Then yeah, that does weigh into it. And honestly, it is going to take a lot more years than we've had between now and the pandemic for me to be physically capable of being proud of America, the way that we utterly bungled the response to that. The willingness of 30 to 45% of the country to just let as many people die as possible and honestly not care, barely care if they're the ones dying. And then when the guy who bungled it and encouraged them socially, culturally, and ideologically to think that we shouldn't care if everyone is dying around us are like, let's put him back in power. No, I'm not capable of being proud of what we are as a political thing. Not anytime soon.
I think both the left and the right in America think half this country is godless, moron, heathen, evil people. But the Republicans say that and then say, but my definition of America is the right one and I'm proud of that. And people on the left are like, they have a more full understanding of what's going on and they aren't going to delude themselves as much. But I still think it would help everybody's mental health to say, to just at least stay a little positive throughout.
Yes, and we will try to encourage that positivity as we go forward. Thanks for watching our video. Did you know that you can support our show by becoming a subscriber? Just click the subscribe button and also ring the bell so that you get notifications when we're live or when we post new content.